Welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jeter with Jessica Pye, Afshin Banav, and Vincent Charles. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports here in the DMV. Let's get started talking about the Nation's Capital Sports Show game of the week, Washington Lee Generals versus the Yorktown Patriots. Afshin, you got an opportunity to call that game. It was a doozy up until the second half, where the Generals finally won 10-0 against those Yorktown Patriots, and what a game it was.
It was absolutely a game, and then the party that Washington Lee threw on the field after the game, you thought they were at home. They had a great crowd that came over from Washington Lee. The schools are only separated by 3 miles, and it was a great game. A defensive struggle most of the way. Most of the analysts in the area thought this was going to be a very high-scoring football game, but not so.
Defensively, man, it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was really good. Washington Lee had goal-to-goal situations 3 times, and the Yorktown Patriots, the first 2 times, held them at goal-to-goal, and they had to start off in the shadows of their own goal post. But even when they were driving the ball down the field, they couldn't muster any points. There was a punt that was fumbled. There was interceptions. There was some key turnovers. 3 missed field goals in the game. It was an amazing game to watch, actually. The score was 10-0, but it was much better than the score would lead you on to believe.
Vincent.
It was a great defensive game, Afshin. Were you impressed with Washington and Lee, how their defense held down Martin, and Peter Griffin had 3 sacks in that game?
Peter Griffin had 3 sacks. He was chasing Roebuck all over the field all night long. I actually had 4 sacks in there, but one of them they gave Roebuck a 1-yard gain on that one. But in the trenches is where it was won by both teams. They played really hard in the trenches, and of course, Washington Lee won on the ground, and most people again would think that M.J. Stewart and Yorktown would be the winners in that category, but they weren't.
Jesse?
You know, Yorktown's defense was as tough as Washington Lee's in the first half. How did they manage to get an edge over in the second half?
W&L got the edge because they started driving the ball. They used the ground game to wear down that Yorktown defense. Duquay Harris was the man who had 220 yards rushing, Jesse, so they just went Duquay Harris left, Duquay Harris right, Duquay Harris up the middle, and he wore down that defensive line of Yorktown. A good defensive line for Yorktown.
Smart.
Yeah,
Let's talk about a couple milestones for Washington Lee. It was the first time that they won a championship game in a number of years.
Yeah, 1975. That's how long it's been since they won the National District Championship. Another big milestone that they finally overcame, if I can say that. They have beaten Yorktown for the first time in the regular season in 30 years. Bruce Hanson has done a great job as the head coach of the Yorktown Patriots, but now Josh Shapiro, the younger, up-and-coming kind of coach, he's been there at Washington Lee for 4 or 5 years now. He's won twice. He won in the playoff game, but the Yorktown Patriots 2 years ago or 3 years ago, they said, you haven't beaten our streak. We still have the regular season streak of 30 straight games.
Now, I know during the course of the game you're concentrating on being analytical and calling the game, but during halftime you may experience the pomp and the pageantry of the crowd. What was the synergy and the energy like?
It was great. There was no score at halftime, which was amazing. I felt, and I talked to our director, Charles Smith, talked to a couple other people out of the van, and talked to a couple of fans, actually, that M.J. Stewart was going to be the one to actually break it. He only had 45 yards in that game, guys. He didn't do anything. They were able to contain him. But everyone thought M.J. Stewart would be the one to break the game wide open, and unfortunately, he couldn't do it for Yorktown.
And the good thing about this, both teams are playoff bound. Now, how do you think Washington Lee will do and Yorktown?
Washington Lee will play Stonewall Jackson. They come out of the Cardinal District. And Stonewall Jackson is a 13 seed, so the top 16 seeds make it. W&L ends up with a 4 seed based on their win over Yorktown. The Patriots, they play the Fairfax Rebels. I think Yorktown and Fairfax will be a much tougher game. Fairfax has a 7-2 record, and they're a number 10 seed. Yorktown has the same record, and Yorktown is a number 7 seed. So I think that Yorktown will have a harder time with Fairfax than W&L will with Stonewall Jackson.
And the good thing about high school games, Afshin and you guys, there is no loser really when it comes down to it. Only the deciding factor is who wins the game. There are a lot of unsung heroes in this game. And in your words, who do you think is the young unsung hero?
Man, I think Peter Griffin and Duquay Harris, I got to give it to both of them for Washington Lee. One on the defensive side, one on the offensive side, because I think what Peter Griffin did to the Yorktown offensive line, and they made the line had to watch him the whole game. They had to watch where he was coming from. He was coming from the left side. He was coming from the right. He pulled a stunt a couple of times, and he was all over Roebuck. And then Duquay Harris, the patience and the poise he has back there in the Washington Lee backfield and waits for that hole before he goes. He's a much different runner, Kevin, than MJ Stewart. He sits there and he'll wait and bide his time before he finds a hole and just goes for it. And of course, Sam Appel, the quarterback for Washington Lee, was also great. I'd give it to all three of those guys. Sam Appel, the senior quarterback, played for Josh Shapiro now for 4 years, was a starter for 3 of those years. The confidence he has in Appel. And that was a great thing at the end of that game to see Appel when they finally won. And when they went into victory formation and that clock went down to 0. What did he do? He went straight in a beeline to Josh Shapiro and picked him up and gave him a big hug.
Now, other teams could pick up on the way in which MJ Stewart runs, and if there's any type of litmus test for other teams, they would actually get a hold of the tape and figure out this is how you can shut or contain MJ Stewart.
That's right. Coach Shapiro, all week long, the players were upset with him because they weren't practicing as much as they were doing game film. If I'm the Fairfax Rebels, I'm watching exactly how MJ Stewart runs, what his niches are, and how he likes to run best with the football, and I would attack that in the Fairfax game against Yorktown when they meet for the playoffs.
All right, Vince, we're going to let you have the last word on this, my man.
So down the road, is there a possibility, Avsheen, that these teams could meet eventually again?
It's possible they could meet. I don't know if they will. I mean, I think in the whole, not just Northern Virginia, but the D.C. area, you're looking at Centerville and Lake Braddock, and I think both those teams will run away with it, and they'll end up meeting for the regionals in Northern Virginia. I do believe that. I don't think Yorktown and Washington Lee will get that far. But it would be great if they did.
All right, good call, Avsheen.
Thank you.
A great game, too.
It was a wonderful game.
All right, we want to remind everyone that you're watching and listening to the Nation's Capital Sports Show at AIM via Comcast 69 and Fios 38. I'm Kevin Jeter along with Jessica Pye, Avsheen Banab, and Vincent Charles. Let's continue our conversation talking about those Washington Redskins. They are 3-6, 7 games left to go in the season. Very contrasting views in terms of how the 2012 team was and how the 2013 team was. The difference is, for 2012, no one expected for the Washington Redskins to go to the playoffs. This year, they're expected to go to the playoffs, and they ain't cutting it. They can't seem to hold the lead. The special teams stink. The defensive, they're having problems. Offensively, they have improved, and Kyle Shanahan, a light has flipped on in his head that, hey, you know what? I can use Alfred Morris to run and be successful. Avsheen.
Should have used Alfred Morris from day one, really. Yeah. And on the defensive side, they should take a page out of Washington Lee and Yorktown's books and see what they can do. But they have a lot of issues. Last year, Kevin, at the same record, people had hope for the team. They didn't even expect them to make the playoffs, but they thought that they were going in the right direction. This year, it's like they took 2 steps back.
Yeah, I don't know.
They have a lot of work to do. And that it's not only the players on the field, but I know part of it is the salary cap. They took an $18 million hit, unlike any other team in the league. And I know that is part of it because they can't go get some of those players that they want to get via the draft or free agency right now.
Who knows? If Shanahan doesn't have a good year, Dan Snyder may say, hey, because of the salary cap issue, I'm going to give you one more chance to make right on this. Vincent.
It's possible, but I'm still not impressed with the Shanahans. That particular game, that was a must-win game. And when you have a 27-14 lead, why didn't the Redskins keep the ball on the ground, try to milk the clock, and get the win? Great offensive effort in the first half. And like you said, Kevin, great play calling by Kyle Shanahan.
That's right. And they had a bevy of time of possessions were great up into the third quarter. Basically, third down conversions were great. But the problem with the Washington Redskins, they cannot sustain and hold any lead. And in order to be successful, the game is based on playing 4 quarters, not 3, not 2, not 1.
Yeah, they seem to play good ball in the first half, does the Burgundy and Gold, but in the second half they seem to lose it all. I don't know if other teams are adjusting better or if the Skins are not adjusting well enough to prepare for the second half.
But believe it or not, at 3-6, Jesse, in the downtrodden NFC East, where the highest record is right now, as of this broadcast, is the Dallas Cowboys. They're 5-4, something to that effect. Hope springs eternal for the Washington Redskins, but barely.
That's only if they can win the next 7 games, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Jesse hit on something. Only if they can win the next 7 games. So you think they can?
I'm not sure. Their defense has to improve.
Yeah.
I'm not impressed by it.
Yeah.
Well, they got San Francisco and Kansas City remaining on that schedule, and I don't think that they can win both. Maybe they'll get lucky and win one of those. But you know what? 8-8 could make the playoffs, could win the division this year. It's amazing.
I know. It's amazing how you see the parity in the NFC East. It's not fun to watch. It's awful to watch. And I would say that even the Giants, if they can get their act together, they may have a chance, you know.
Absolutely. You know, you talk about parity in the NFL, Kevin. 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, where the Seattle Seahawks, those juggernauts of the NFL right now, were 7-9 and won the division. And then they won their first round playoff game against the New Orleans Saints. So anything could happen. But, you know, the Skins, to me, 7-9, 8-8, and if that gets them the division, fine. They'll go to the playoffs, but I don't think it would be deserving.
It's funny that in the NFL, we were talking about Fred Davis off air and how a year and a half ago, he was the star marquee player for the Washington Redskins. Rookie Jordan Reed steps in, and that's the reason why Fred Davis isn't playing. Your star status can go just like that in the NFL. Vincent.
Jordan Reed is having a good year, Kevin. And offensively, the Redskins have improved. RG3 has improved. But defensively, they're still feeling the effects of that salary cap, Kevin. You're right. They were not able to get the free agents to try to beef up the defense and the secondary. It's highly unlikely that they'll run the table. I can see this team maybe finishing with 7 wins.
Well, here's the biggest question, though, and I'll ask this aloud. If Shanahan is retained, will he keep his offensive coordinator and son, Kyle Shanahan?
Yeah, he will.
And will he, you think so?
I think so. He should.
Vincent?
There's no way you're going to separate the Shanahans.
What about Jim Haslett, defensive coordinator?
There's a possibility they could let him go.
Yeah, I think he will be the proverbial scapegoat in all this, unfortunately.
I do too. I think it would be Haslett. I'd like to see Fred Davis and Jordan Reed play on the field at the same time, but the Shanahan seem to be against that because I still think Fred Davis has a lot to accomplish in the NFL, and it looks like they want to throw him out with the bathwater. But
yeah,
putting them on the field at the same time would be dangerous, I think, for defenses.
I think so. Apparently, and obviously, it's frustrating for Fred Davis to see his stock go down, especially in the NFL. We talk about RG3 in terms of him quarterbacking. He's proven that he's human after all. He's made some mistakes. He's played smart for most of the time, but the bottom line is he is human.
He is, and he's still trying to take the brunt of all of the hits. He doesn't seem to want to slide. He doesn't care if he gets hit. He even tries to take late hits by, touching just by tiptoeing out of bounds, slowing down to take a late hit. And he's got to be careful with that stuff. He's a great talent. He's got to be able to play. I think he's a good passer. I think he's a good quarterback all around. He's mobile. He's a scrambler. He can run and he can throw. But he's got to be able to listen to his coaches a little bit better and do what the system tells him to do, not what he wants to do.
That's right. And when you look at the Redskins from an offensive standpoint of view, Roy Halou is stepping up, Alfred Morris, and you have Santana Moss. And so those players are showing their worth, especially in that Minnesota game. And the game in which they played where they won in overtime, that was a good game as well.
Yeah, the San Diego Chargers game you're referring to, Kevin, that was a great game. I think that Ryan Kerrigan has played the best among anybody on the offensive side, defensive side. I also like the rookie Emerson. Vincent, I think he's done really well. I think he's stepped up, and you see him getting better game to game.
And
He's done a
Vincent,
good
we're going to
job.
let you have the last word.
Emerson has done a fine job for a rookie this year. Getting back to the offense, I think that the offensive line needs to improve, though. RG3, he's only as good as his offensive line, and they allowed 4 sacks the last game.
That's right. And the game in which they have to play against Philadelphia, that's going to be a telling choice. Can they win it? I don't know. They're going to be up in Philly, and we'll see if they can. For the Nation's Capital Sports Show, I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Vincent Charles, Afshin Banab, and Jesse Pye. Coming up next, this is the fun type of the show that we're going to have here. Our very own director and sometime producer of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, Kevin Sampson, the host of Picture Lock, will be with us, and we're going to talk all things movies, I should say, favorite sports movies, coming up right here on the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Jessica Pye, Kevin Sampson, wow, Afshin Banab, and Vincent Charles. Kevin Sampson joins us in the flesh, producer and host of the show Picture Lock, which airs here at AIM via Comcast 69 and Files 38. Man, I've been waiting all week. I know we've been communicating via Facebook, talking about what we're going to talk about. And we're going to talk about the best and the most of movies and sports movies. But before we get to that, you are an aspiring film critic and major. and you went to American University. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. Well, first off, thanks guys for having me on the show.
Not a
I
problem.
definitely appreciate it. I got an MFA in 2011 from American University, and I'm also a member of the Washington D.C. Area Film Critics Association.
And that gives you invaluable street cred.
Exactly. So I think with the MFA and the DC Film Critics Association name behind me helps me with my street cred. Yes.
And I love your show, man. I've watched it a few times. You can catch Kevin, of course, here at AIM, as I just mentioned, but also you can listen to him on the award-winning Stitcher. Well, you're copying off of me, man. The nation's capital sports show is also on Stitcher, man.
You brought me on. You brought me on to bring me out. Yeah, I must admit, I copied off of you. I was like, oh, Stitcher, let me do. Okay, so.
So why Picture Lock? How do you come
Lock-
up with the name and the concept behind it?
Okay, so Picture Lock is an hour-long film review show, and basically, we just critique films. And in the filmmaking process, there is a actual point entitled Picture Lock, and that's basically once you finish editing all the visuals of your movie, then the picture is locked. And that allows you to go and do like all your audio editing, the special effects, things like that. So that's how Picture Lock came.
All right, very good. And what are your aspirations in terms of where do you want to take this? What do you want to do in movies and films or TV?
Well, I love directing. I love narratives and I love documentaries. So I'm a writer, director, and producer. Obviously, I have the show. And so I hope we'll see where the show and the podcast takes me. I hope to keep continuing that. I'll be shooting a short film coming up in 2 weeks, actually. And then hopefully next year I can shoot my first feature in the D.C. area. So
That's pretty
that's
good.
what I'm looking forward to.
We're looking forward to it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we wish you the best of luck.
Oh, thank you.
So let's get in talking about movies. We all picked our 3 favorite movies, and we're going to talk about them just a little bit. And first, we're going to start with you, Vincent. One of your movies was The Blind Side and Caddyshack, and what was the other one?
Rocky, the first Rocky picture.
All right. And Afshin?
Well, I have Any Given Sunday. I loved Oliver Stone's movie depiction of how the sport is actually violent. Now here we are talking about it. It's on the national stage. But
Right.
The Natural, and a bit of a comedic one, Bull Durham, and then my honorable mention, Kevin. I don't know how far back you go, but do you remember Brian's song?
Yes, I do, actually.
That was a great song, a movie with Billy D. Williams and James
Right,
Caan. So
right.
Those were my 4 big movies I liked.
Nice.
Jesse. Yeah, I said 3, but he got his 4th one in there. But nonetheless, he doesn't listen.
I
But go
can't
ahead.
count.
That's never follows directions. Well, I liked A League of Their Own. I have to
Of
put
course,
that out
classic.
there.
There's no
Very
crying
much.
in baseball.
That's right.
Wonderful, wonderful movie. Loved it. Gina Davis. The other one I would have to say is I'm going to go with The Blind Side as well and Rocky. Like those are really good, heartfelt movies.
The first Rocky, right?
Of course.
All right.
right.
All right. I liked Afshin, and I like the same movie on any given Sunday. The Fan with Wesley Snipes, that taxi
That was
evader.
good- that's
That
a
was a
good
good
one.
movie.
Yeah.
Wasn't that good?
That was
And of course, Soul of the Game. It's a movie about the Negro League, made-for-TV film, which starred Blair Underwood and Delroy Lindo. Now, Blair Underwood played Jackie Robinson. Delroy Lindo played Satchel Paige. That was a good movie.
Wow.
And so when you look at movies in general, the whole advent of movies have changed drastically. We see movies moving on to the internet, and with the closing of that favorite Blockbuster, they're down to 300 brick and mortar stores, and they're going to close shop in 2014.
Right.
Now things have gone over to Netflix and the Hulu's of the world. How do you see this going?
You know, it's actually kind of interesting because now that everything is going towards digital sales, a lot of people are doing it's great as a gift and a curse because now filmmakers can really get out their own self-distribution through digital online sales, things like that. But even like the MacBook Pros no longer have a DVD on the side of them, the newer ones. So it's kind of like we're getting rid of some of these things, DVDs, obviously VHS is long gone, but you know what I mean? So we're kind of losing some of these things, which is really interesting to me. Everything's going digital.
That's right. And I like the fact that you can watch Netflix and they have their individual productions such as Black is the New Orange. And then there's
Right.
that political thriller with Kevin Spacey. Oh, man, I love that.
House
And
of Cards.
A lot of that
Right.
is the filming in that. And my question, then I'm going to let the other guys ask you questions. when you have productions done in the DC area, that creates a lot of work for up and coming talent in terms of production, in terms of behind the scene work, correct?
Right, it definitely does. And one of the things about, unfortunately, with DC is because we have so many different, like you have the federal police and it's all these jurisdictions. A lot of times, like with House of Cards, they're actually shooting in Baltimore, but it's doubling as DC. So in some ways, we do get more work, but definitely the DMV area gets a lot more work.
Afshin.
Yeah, you make a good point. There's a movie that's being shot in Cleveland right now, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but they're using the Roslyn Metro stand sign to put up in Cleveland as if Cleveland were Washington, D.C. would never happen.
Right.
But I would like to know, how did you get involved? My father was a great movie buff, and even to this day, he will sit there for hours and talk to me about movies. What is it that got you involved in the movie industry? Something at a young age? Did you like certain things that you saw in production or editing, or how did that evolve?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I was never the kid that was like, you guys were probably the kid that was like, oh, did you see the game last night? And you were spouting off like all the statistics and things like that. Instead, I was the kid that was like, oh, did you see that movie on TV? Did you see this, that, the other? And so from a young age, I just always loved movies. I was fascinated with them. I remember going to the library instead of renting or checking out like Judy Blume books. It was The 1,000 Faces of Lon Chaney. So that was the difference. I don't know. It's one of those things where, you know, once you kind of find yourself and you find your talent, you're like, oh, it's been there the whole time. I just didn't really connect. So since I was a little kid, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to let this segment run a little bit longer than usual because I'm enjoying the chat here, and I wanted to make sure that Jesse got their questions and Vincent as well.
Okay.
We want to remind everyone that you're looking at the Nation's Capital Sports Show, or it's politically correct to say watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show right here at AIM via Comcast 69 and Fios 38. Kevin Jeter hanging out with Jesse Pye, Afshin Bernard, Vincent Charles, and a very special guest, Kevin Sampson of Picture Lock. Vincent.
In the movie or the media area that you're in, as a long-term goal, you do wear a lot of hats right now doing the different things. Would you say your long-term goal would be to be a director?
Good question.
You know, definitely. To me, and a lot of my filmmaking friends say this, if I could live comfortably, like to be able to provide for my family and make films like every day, then that's the life for me. And I think when I was in high school, I was always acting, right? And so going to college, but I was like, study computer science, you know, it's guaranteed to have money. And I was like, no, maybe not the acting. I'm probably not Denzel, but at least I can get behind the camera. And so in getting behind the camera, that's when I realized as a director, you really get to shape the story. You're doing more of the storytelling as a director than as an actor. So I would love to direct down the road.
Jesse.
You know, right now, since you're making all these films and things, how do you think that the outside influences what you produce? Do you look at things like media, or do you look at international events that are happening? How do you put together your ideas for that?
You know, that's a great question. I think in Moneyball, wasn't that where the baseball team is kind of like the coach studied all these different
Sabermetrics.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so in the same way, as a director, I watched so many films, literally, like especially as a critic now. Oh my goodness, it's the end of the year, so we're watching all these screeners, you know, getting ready to vote on things. And so it's the same way. I've seen so many movies that I know what doesn't work. Now, I'm not saying that I'm Hitchcock or anything like that. I'm on my way. But I know what doesn't work, and I know what does work. And so I think I'm influenced by a lot.
That's pretty good, pretty amazing, and a pretty bright young man. I'm proud of you, proud for you.
Thank
but
you.
One of the reasons why we had you on here, in addition to promoting your show and talking movies, is that you have the top grossing sport movies of all time.
Yes.
All right.
Can I say my top three?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say your top
All
three.
right, so my top three, this is the way I viewed it. I said if I was on a desert island and I had 3 movies and that's all I could watch, I said Rocky 1, The Sandlot, and Remember the Titans.
Oh.
Now, my honorable mention is D2, The Mighty Ducks, and Raging Bull.
Oh,
Those are just-
my honorable mention too is Major League, the first one. I figured I'd get that in there because Afshin got him in his movie.
And now you guys got him in.
And then
Oh,
he got him
yeah.
in. So you can spank my hand. I've been bad too. But let's go ahead and hear your top grossing movies of all times, and then we're going to wrap this up.
Okay, according to IMDb, the top 3 grossing movies of all time is The Blind Side, Cars, and The Karate Kid. Now that's without inflation. If you added inflation into it, it's actually Rocky, The Pride of the Yankees, and Heaven Can Wait.
Wow.
Wait.
Karate Kid, a top movie? Man, that's crazy. Anyway, Kevin, we want to thank you for joining us here. Hopefully you'll have me on your show.
Yeah.
That cross promotion there. I don't know anything. I love talking movies and I love talking in general. So, but the bottom line is Kevin Sampson, Picture Lock, right here at AIM. Also on the Stitcher Radio Network, the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network. And make sure you check them out. Kevin Jeter, Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, Jessica Pye. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Kevin Jeter, the Nation's Capital Sports Show, and we have Kevin Sampson of Picture Lock.
Yep, picturelockshow.com.
That's right, and the Nation's Capital Sports Show at tncss.net. And besides sharing the same names, we also are on AIM via Comcast 69 and Files 38.
Yep. And not only that, we're on the award-winning what?
Stitcher Radio Network, man. That's right.
I think I copied off of you to get
Yeah,
that.
but that's okay, though. But the good thing about it is that you can catch the very best in film and TV with Picture Lock with Kevin Sampson.
And you can catch the very best of any of the sports in the nation's capital with the Nation's Capital Sports Show.
That's right.
Where it's what?
Always on. The Nation's Capital Sports Show, along with Picture Lock, right here at AIM via Comcast 69 and Fios 38, where it's most definitely on. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network. Also, you can check out our brand new website at tncss.net. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, and Jessica Pye. Welcome back. Let's continue our conversation and discussion about sports. This one is also a fun topic. Didn't you enjoy it, Kevin? Wasn't it fun?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so
love movies.
Before we get into our next segment, let's talk a little bit about the Washington Caps. We're going to do this for Misty Sweet because she was at a game that the Caps were, they came rocking the red and they won.
They did. They've done really well at home this year, and Ovechkin has been on fire, the leading goal scorer in the National Hockey League. But I got to give props to Joe Ward, Martin Erat, Brooks Laich, because on that second and third line, they've not only killed a penalty, but they've been scoring shorthanded goals as well. They've done really well.
And Ovechkin, who cares about that sholdder injury? Man, he's like the man of steel, Superman.
What shoulder injury,
Yeah,
right?
I know,
Yeah,
man.
no,
All
he's
right.
playing well. He's done a really good job. He's got to keep it up all season long. Adam Oates, I think they're buying into him, Kevin.
All right, so the next thing is for all four of us to go to a Caps game on me.
All right.
Probably the cheap seats.
No, lower seating bowl, right?
I don't know about all that.
Afshin's paying.
I said on me, basically. All right, let's continue talking about the next segment, fans behaving badly. How often have one of us gone to a game and we've seen a fan a little inebriated, talking loud a little bit, using a little profanity, disrupting the enjoyment of fellow fans?
Yeah.
I can't begin to tell you that how many times I've seen this. How many times have we seen it on television? Now, I had the privilege of being at the All-Star game, the Major League Baseball for 2013, and I saw a fan who ran out on the field, but the story behind it was he was not going to run out into the field until he got his 1 millionth tweet. And the story tells it as it goes. After he got his 1 millionth tweet, he called his mom and said he was going to do it. So he did it. They locked him up. Stupid. So mistakes could be made as to whether or not one drinks or not. So you can be under the influence of stupidity or under the influence of alcohol. Afshin.
Well, his was certainly the influence of stupidity.
Yeah, I know.
He called his mother, literally, this fan, right from the stands. He was, 3 or 4 rows from the field, and said, "Mom, I'm about to do it." And according to reports, Mom said, "You're crazy if you do it. Do not do it." And he said, "No, I'm doing it," and he did it.
Well, the funny thing about this, because I had like a press seat that the players had their cameras, and they was actually snapping pictures of it getting locked up.
Oh, sometimes for the players, it's an enjoyment too. It's
Yeah, I
something
know.
that they have to capture on camera. They got to.
But you got to ask yourself, how much is too much? I mean, you have fans that come to games that are a little bit inebriated. A question has come up whether or not alcohol beverages should be sold at professional sporting events, Vincent.
I think they need to be regulated, and I agree with the seventh inning rule where they cut off the alcohol after 7 innings. I think also they should just allow a person to just buy one drink at a time instead of, I know off camera we talked about one guy ordered 7 beers at one
Right.
time.
That was the game, the national game that I was at. How do you regulate that? He can get a friend to go up and buy 5 or 1 beer, another friend to buy another beer. This guy had literally brought 7 beers at one time, set them right down in front of him, and proceeded to drink them all. And then in 15 minutes, I mean, I'd never seen anybody, even my old college days, I could not chug 7 beers in like 2-3 minutes. But he did the mission impossible. So what can you do about regulating that? I don't know if stadiums want to be in the business of regulating folks. I'm neither for or against whether or not they should have alcoholic beverages. I do believe that fans should at least examine or at least demonstrate some type of control. Afshin. I mean, Afshin, but Jesse.
No, you're absolutely right. Everyone's responsible for themselves. But there was a study done by the British Psychology Association where it shows that more sports fans, when they get into these fights, it's after their team either wins or loses, so that testosterone is just building up. So I don't think alcohol has a lot to do with these fights. Like you
Wow.
said,
Well,
that
very
guy.
interesting.
Well, most of the fights usually involve men, not
Yeah.
women. Except I did send you guys a clip recently about a woman who got hit in the face.
Yeah, I saw
The
that.
Jets and Patriots one?
Yeah, it was the Jets and Patriots one. I think the problem is before the game even starts. A lot of these people are tailgating.
That's right.
And there
Right.
lies in the problem because they've already had those 6 or 7 drinks sometimes
8.
before they even enter the stadium.
That's right.
And that's where that's what you cannot regulate is tailgating parties.
Now, one of the things that I did do prior before this broadcast, I did contact the Washington Nationals, the Washington Wizards or Monument Sports, and of course DC United, their public relations department, and asked them if there was a Bill of Rights. And they informed me that there was. You flip on the back of your ticket, in that very small print, it says that we reserve the right to kick you out of the game if you act a fool. And also on their website, and the PR department, in small print, you can see that there is the fan or customer Bill of Rights. Afshin.
Yeah, and it's good to have. And you got to remember too. There are a lot of kids at games, a lot of kids at basketball games, a lot of kids at football games. Families go to these games, and it would be nice to see the fans actually follow that small print on the back of those tickets.
Well, you know what kind of got me upset at the national game with the guy with the 7 beers was that there was a family 2 rows down from him, and lo and behold, he started cursing, using profanity, and the guy from the family looked up real quick, and the guy that was inebriated said, "Who in the blankety blank? Who are you looking at?" And that was uncalled for. Now, national security came down there and said, "Hey, we're going to have to kick you out." But by the 4th inning, he excused himself, and we were none the wiser.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you see this, and it shouldn't happen. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I think as we've progressed, especially through social media and everything, here we are in 2013 now, it's gotten worse over the years. It hasn't gotten better. I think that there's more aggressiveness, more of that testosterone-laden
That's
mentality at games now than, let's say, 20 years ago.
And we haven't even started or begun to talk about what happens after the game outside of the stadium in the arena, and you can't blame the stadium for that and for the sport owners for that, or the burning of the cars, the burning of the trees. Now, I love sports and I love to celebrate, but come on, let's be real.
Yeah.
You know.
No, you're right.
It happens all over the country, man. The burning of the cars, that's a Detroit thing. Charles Smith could tell you.
Well, it moved on to L.A. Remember
It has
Los
moved
Angeles
on.
Lakers?
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because sometimes you go and you really want to watch a really good game.
That's right.
Whatever sport it is.
Now, I don't mind the occasional smack talking that goes on at baseball games where you hear with the one guy, "Hey, Ump, that was a bad call. Hey, Ump, that was a bad call."
Yeah.
And they go back and forth, and that friendly type of bantering. And then among fans, of course, you have that friendly type of bantering just when it gets belligerent and ignorant. We were at a Philadelphia game, DC United, and not to say anything about Philly fans, but man, they're the most scariest, unruly, surly, ignorant fans that I've ever seen in all days of my life. At the end of the game, we had to be escorted out separately because perhaps we would have gotten into a fight with one of those fans. They were
Yeah,
like
we did.
tossing liquids from the stands.
Yeah, they were in the upper ramp and they were told to hold off, and we were trying to be escorted out. It was strange. It was a soccer match, and they threw stuff at us from above.
Yeah.
You know, and
They
that's
even-
happened. And then even the bad things, some really bad things have happened over on the West Coast lately with San Francisco and LA, where people have actually died.
That's right.
You know, people have been killed
Yeah.
because they get into little arguments about their rivalries.
And the guy that bent over and fell to his death. I
Yeah.
don't know if that was due to
That was-
alcohol.
yeah, that was
but
a little
I
bit
think That
different,
was just
but-
different. That was an accident right there.
He actually had his son with him, and Josh Hamilton at the time was the outfielder for the Texas Rangers. Got a baseball, and you know how players do, guys.
That's right.
Right? Throw him in the stands. Well, he saw this guy way up there leaning over the rail calling for it because he wanted to give it to his kid. Hamilton threw the ball up, and he reached over the rail, and he just went tumbling down.
All right,
and
that
he
was
died.
that was an
But-
unfortunate thing.
Yeah,
but
that was
We're
unfortunate.
going to let Vincent have the last word on this.
I think the Bill of Rights is a good thing for the fans. I think that the police should give these fans a short leash and not let them get away with a lot of things. I mean, you're always going to have your so-called fools. But the majority of people out there, you know, they come to the games and they're respectable and they respect the other fans.
That's right.
It's just that I think the ballparks and the management in general has to just make sure that they keep an eye on it.
And I think they do a good job at that. You can't, I mean, it's up for each person, as you alluded to, Vincent, to be responsible, to be a responsible fan, to be a responsible drinker, to be responsible in terms of what you're going to do. Because as it was proven to us through our examples, you don't need to be inebriated to act a fool. You can just be a
fool.
testosterone laden and a fool. And so the bottom line is that we hope folks exercise a little jurisprudence for your fellow fans and enjoy the game as it is meant to be, entertainment and have fun. Drink all the beers that you want, but also be very neighborly to your neighbor. And so we're at the end of the road here at the Nation's Capital Sports Show. And Afshin, you're going to talk about the people that make us look good behind the scenes.
Oh, man, they always make us look good. Devin Gallagher and Charles Smith, we all know who they are,
That's
right?
right.
Ken Briley, should I name the man of the hour, Kevin Sampson,
That's right.
right? Misty Sweet, Jonathan Kim, LJ Lacoma, and Faith DeVoe. I mean, a great crew that we have always that make this cast look
Two
excellent.
good names, Faith DeVoe
Faith
and
DeVoe.
Misty Sweet.
That's
I
right.
like that.
I like that. Both. They sound like movie names. I
Yeah,
think
they do.
Kevin should inquire about their
Acting
sources. Let them
ability,
get in in
that's
his movies.
right.
Yeah.
You know, I got to also suck up to Kevin. I mean, be Kevin's pal a little bit more because he may have a voice role for me. I don't know. But we'll see how that goes.
See how it goes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for tuning into the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where you can listen to us on the award-winning Stitcher Radio Network. Check out our website at tncss.net. Facebook us, like us. Also, email us at info@tncss.net. I know I'm going crazy here getting all this in, but I've neglected to do it during the course of the show, so you may see a bunch of stuff flashing up on your screen. For the entire AIM studio crew here, as well as the Nation's Capital Sports Show crew here, Vincent Charles, Afshin Banab, Jesse Pye, and Kevin Jeter. That's who I am. We thank you for listening to the Nation's Capital Sports Show. We thank you for watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Go out and have yourself a beautiful sporting week and a sporting weekday, and we'll catch you on the next edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Take care.